This week, coming up from the ashes.
They were going to have an add-on that came with like that you could like basically expand the life of the Super Nintendo. And so this add-on was called the Nintendo PlayStation. And so they had all this stuff lined up for it. Like they had in progress like games like Resident Evil and but the main one that they had coming out was through Squaresoft, and that was Final Fantasy VII. That was going to be the release, the first one of the first that come out with it. Welcome, everybody, to From the Ashes. Today is Monday, July 1st. That's right. It is the week of Independence Day. And I just want to say, since we won't be airing on the 4th, I just wanted to say Happy Independence Day. Today, we are going to go down a deep rabbit hole when it comes to what is known as the console wars. We're going to talk from everything from Nintendo and Sega, maybe some Atari and Nintendo, to Xbox and PlayStation. It's going to be... Do what?
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 Nothing. I had an itch in my throat. I had to cough.
Oh. So anyways, I am your host, Phoenix, and as with me as always is my co-host, Arson. And today we have Zhombi and Al with us to discuss this. And I'm truly excited to get into this. I've been wanting to do this for a while. So let's just get started, guys. What do you guys know about the console wars? Like what's your memories of some of them, like the older ones, maybe?
No, I'm part of the PC master race, so, I don't know much about it.
I mean, I too am part of the PC master race. However, I always remember my origin story.
You speak of?
Says the person that plays on PlayStation 5.
I wasn't alive when this started, but the Sega versus Nintendo happened. I remember that.
Yeah. And that's pretty interesting with everything, because you got the likes of Atari and a couple of the other ones that were around, Magnavox, Odyssey, and Commodore and whatnot. And, Atari outshined them, I guess. And lo and behold, here comes Nintendo. And they just took this whole world by storm with their little character of Mario and everything that went with it, man. It was pretty cool, to watch, to see. I myself had a Nintendo and a Sega, so I played both ends of that, and it was fun. Some games I strictly stuck to Sega, some games I strictly stuck to Nintendo, even though they were on both consoles. So, what about you, Arson?
What?
What? What are your thoughts? What's the one that you remember the most?
Of Nintendo or Sega?
Well, I mean, of just any type of the console wars that there've been numerous ones. So
I've never really paid much attention to them at all. I've literally it's been a background thing, but I've never really paid any attention to console wars at all. It's just eh.
Well, how about
this? You play it. That's how it is.
I can't remember like Phoenix. I mean, I wasn't a part of. Like I said, I wasn't a part of all of it because I'm not super old like Phoenix is.
But back in my day, sorry.
But I do remember the kind of the video game wars starting with kind of Sega and Nintendo, and then Sega and Nintendo's war ending when Sony said "fuck you." I'm gonna put out some better shit.
Yeah, and
the PlayStation.
Yes, I definitely want to get into that, but I want to skip ahead and talk about the more recent one. and that would be Xbox versus PlayStation right now, Sony versus Microsoft, because that's the most relevant that we've got. And it's kind of cool because I've always been a Sony person. Like I've owned every single console that they've owned or that they've put out. You know,
I'm just gonna be that guy right now. I don't know about modern console wars right now, but as it stands to me, it seems like both Microsoft and Sony are shooting themselves more in the foot than they are each other, especially with their recent decisions as of late.
well,
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, like Microsoft made a bigger mistake decision. Well, I don't know if it's so much of a mistake, but it was the decision. And to be fair, I think PlayStation has pretty much wrapped this up, and they literally have the console wars. Like it's done because Xbox is from what I've read is not going to be producing anymore because every time that they've produced a console, Sony has outshined them so much. They've lost Microsoft has lost so much money on consoles. But what they don't lose money on is their games, most of them. And so they've decided to take the route of going and licensing out their products to, other consoles. And that is including Sony, which their first group of games just came out for PlayStation, and that's including the rights of like the likes of Sea of Thieves. What else? What else got released? There was a couple more, wasn't there, Arson?
Hi-Fi Rush.
So yeah, there's a few, and that's like the first step. And from what I've heard, that like Halo's going to be coming to PlayStation and all this other stuff. Yeah, so like all their exclusive titles are coming to PlayStation. So I'm excited about that, but that's kind of similar what happened to Sega back in the day too. Sega came out
It's
with
crazy because Microsoft just bought a bunch of companies.
yeah. Well, I think that they did that so they could have the rights to the game, so they can actually make money off of the game. So which makes sense. Like if you're gonna be, Microsoft's got so much money tied up in different things. Like you can be like, okay, I'm stopping the console, but we're gonna license out our games. We're gonna still release them on our Xbox, that we got now on Microsoft, PC, but we're also gonna lease them out to, license them out to like maybe Nintendo or PlayStation, and so it's quite interesting to see the turn of events because, like I said, I've always been a PlayStation guy ever since the first time I saw Final Fantasy VII and Resident Evil. Like I've always been, because those were all exclusive to PlayStation for the longest time. And I want to get into that, but not right now. But I mean, it's a really cool thing. But yeah, so Microsoft's doing kind of what Sega did. Sega's last console was the Dreamcast, which is way ahead of its time. It was a phenomenal one. Like it's got so many different ports on there that you could port to the internet and stuff like that, but it was too ahead of its time. And because of that, it kind of killed the company. So, I don't know. I love this. I love this talk of all this stuff, and it's amazing. Like the stages everybody goes through, in companies like this throughout the history, because like I said, you had like Atari, Nintendo, Sega, then you got the handhelds, which again, Sega's handheld was ahead of its time. It was a good.
Yeah, it looks like the Steam Deck does now.
Yeah, yeah. The Game Gear was really cool. I'm just saying. I didn't have one, but I had a friend that had one, and it was just really neat to be able to.
My cousin had one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I never had one per se myself, but my cousin definitely had one. The thing was actually really cool back in the day.
Right. I had an original Game Boy. you had to have a light with it because once it went dark, you couldn't
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
I remember
original
that.
Yeah.
color. You can actually buy a light attachment. Did you buy that?
Yes, I had a light attachment that was on it.
Yeah, you could just plug it into like the charging port, and it, like the light would actually shine on the screen, so you can
Right.
play at night.
And it literally it attached to the top of your Game Boy.
Yep.
So
I had
yeah.
the same one.
Yep. And like I don't know whatever happened to that. Like I have no idea what happened to like my Game Boy. But I did have one at one point. That's the one, if you want to call it handheld console that I had that I don't know what happened to. So I was young, like really young. But I have all my other ones like Nintendo, Super Nintendo. Like I have a lot of consoles that sit underneath my TV, and none of them get played.
Yeah, I had like 3 or 4 like SNESs in like my closet when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I had Sega. I had all the old school games. The only one I didn't have a system in there was an Atari. When I left for college and the military, my mom thought it was a great idea to give all of my stuff away,
Oh,
and
jeez.
I no longer have these things or my Pokemon cards that are worth a fuck ton of money.
Oh
But
my gosh.
I'm not going to be angry about it right now, so let's go on.
No, please. Let's dive into your feelings.
Yeah, let's dig into that trauma.
Let's return to Dr. Phil. Okay, that was horrible, but
Yes, that was horrible.
that was absolutely horrible.
We won't talk about it. You can just keep moving.
So, all right, so let's go off topic a little bit. Not like we weren't already, but let's go off topic a little bit and go off of what Al was saying with the consoles he had and stuff like that. What consoles do you guys remember having growing up? Zombie.
None.
Really?
I didn't have any consoles growing up.
Because he's not a nerd like we are.
You're such a
we had
non-nerd.
a PC because, again, my dad worked with computers.
Yeah.
So he had to have a computer for work. So we would occasionally have games for it. But, it wasn't until, the technology got really good
Yeah.
that, the computer games started being decent.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember, we've talked about a couple of them, but I remember trying to, like, one of the games on there that my dad would have, and I didn't understand it at that point, was Leisure Suit Larry, and it was one.
You just
about like world events to like make sure you are old enough, and so we tried to bluff our way through, and there are just certain things I didn't understand about the game, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't like, and my parents, they said that they didn't really get us a console or anything like that. I mean, the first one I had myself was it? Oh, it was when I went off to college in 2000. I bought a one of the really small Sega Genesis.
Oh yeah.
The Sega Saturn?
Like no, like the Sega Genesis Classic.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They just kind of, it was like a real, like a smaller version of it.
But it had the games on board already, right?
Nope.
Oh, you're talking. Okay, I know what you're talking about. I get the same one underneath there, like the smaller version of the Genesis. Okay, the one that actually attached easier to the Sega CD. I think
sure,
that's
I didn't have the Sega CD, but
I had that too. I had it, but my niece. Never mind. I'm not going to talk about it.
Bringing up bad memories for you too, huh?
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
I don't
dude.
know who broke it, but one of them broke it when I was away, and I came back to get it, and it it no longer played CDs. It wouldn't spin. They broke the little thing on the inside, but the Genesis itself still works. So anyways, continue, Zombie.
But yeah, I mean, that's like I said, that's really about. I mean, I had that for a while, and I can't remember what happened to it. It might have been that you know the roommate stole it, or a roommate broke it, or something. I can't remember. Um, then I bought uh, PlayStation 1,
Ooh, yes.
the again the
Oh,
smaller version.
yeah.
Um, but I mean, I've bounced back and
And one
forth.
came out in 2000, didn't it?
I don't know.
Don't know.
Which one? The small one came out in 2000 is what you said?
Yeah, it's like 2000, 2001, something like that. 'Cause
I'm
I
not
think the
100%
original
sure.
PlayStation 1 came out in 2000.
No. The original PlayStation 1. We talked about this the other day, didn't we? Somebody and I talked about this. It was like 94 or 96 was when it came out. Between 94 and 96 is when PlayStation came out.
But so like I've never really stuck with uh like one brand over another.
Yeah.
Like it was like, oh well no, I'm PlayStation. It was more about initially what could I afford.
Mm-hmm.
Um it really didn't get until later on, and even like as far as like looking at the different ones. Uh but I mean even then it was more about who did I know? Like, okay, which one did I know more people on that played?
Mm-hmm.
And I mostly did Xbox for a while just because most of the people that I knew had an Xbox.
Yeah. So PlayStation came out in America in September of 1995. So just and then PlayStation 2 came out March 4th of
In
2000.
2000.
Yeah.
Yeah, that came out in 2000. That's the one I was thinking about.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I agree with that, Zombie. Like, but see, back in the day, it wasn't more about that than more of like I've got this gaming system. Like one of my best friend, he had the Sega Master System, and I had the Nintendo, and we'd go back and forth. Like, I could go and tell you my like the game I remember the most on every single console, like the older ones, the most memorable. Uh, but it's that's a whole other subject. It seems like. But
Yeah,
anyways,
right.
um, but what about you, Al? What's some of the what's the first one you remember having?
So the first one I ever remember having was the original Nintendo. Not the SNES, but the
Yeah,
NES.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The 8-bit.
Yeah. And then, I played that for, I mostly just played Mario on it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Basically what the Nintendo was made for at the beginning anyways, right?
Right.
So I played basically the old school Mario on it all the time. And then I got an SNES and I played, a bunch of different, you know, games that were on the SNES. But the one I remember the most from my childhood um, would have been the N64.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, so the N64 was the one that I remembered playing, Pokemon Stadium when it came out, Mario Kart. I remember playing Mario Kart on SNES, but I just have more vivid memories of it on the N64. And then the game that everybody loves and everybody loves to talk about and cheat and make mods for is Super Mario 64.
Mm-hmm.
I used to love the heck out of that game, and I played a lot of Nintendo games growing up until I switched over to. I never had a PlayStation 1. My cousin had a PlayStation 1, so I never really had it myself, but I did play some games on it. But the first PlayStation I owned was a PS2, and love that game or love the system. And
Yeah.
I've been basically a PlayStation person ever since. Like I have Nintendo stuff here and there. I never bought a Wii, never would buy a Wii, never bought any renditions of a Wii. But I had friends who had it and cousins and family members and stuff who had it, so I played on those. But I have ever since PlayStation 2, I've had every PlayStation that has come out since.
That's pretty cool. Did you ever go back and get a one?
Yes, I did when I went to college. But yeah. So I've been PlayStation all the way. I've never owned. I have owned an Xbox, but I never bought an Xbox. Let me say
Yeah.
that.
I bought the first Xbox, the 360, and I was given by my roommate, and I actually purchased his Xbox One off of him for different reasons, but I've never once ever had it plugged in ever. It just sits underneath my TV. It's not even plugged up to the TV. It just sits there. So you know, well, that's cool. What about you, Arson? What's the first one you remember having, and which one's your favorite?
Oh. Well, I mean the first I never really at first I played those stupid plug and play things.
Mm, I thought
we
you
were
were
The
gonna
so
say,
emulators?
poor. We were so poor that
yeah.
we could not afford a console.
Mm-hmm.
So I just stuck with my normal toys and these plug and plays. I know the ones that I played a lot were the Pac-Man ones, but there was also a Wally one that I
Wally.
played. Yeah, it was like a little puzzle thing. It was
Mm-hmm.
pretty cool, but I mostly played the Pac-Man ones.
Huh.
Until finally, on a fateful day, I was gifted a PlayStation 2, and I played that thing religiously, man.
Man.
That was the beginning. That was the beginning of basically everything that led me to this point right here. And I just played all sorts of things on it. I know the big standout games that I played on it were Ben 10, Protector of Earth, best Ben 10 game. Another one I played was Crash Bandicoot, Twin Sanity.
That was my jam.
That was the best Crash game to me. I don't know why, I just love it. And then another one that I played, which was the best game on the PlayStation 2 that I played, was Sonic Unleashed, and that was just man that the beginning cinematic was like it was unreal, man. That was
Is that
some
the one
good
where he
stuff.
turns into like the big werewolf thing?
Yeah, that's the one where he turns into
Yeah.
the werehog is what they call
Yeah.
him. But no, yeah, the that's also like the really awesome soundtrack. I love the gameplay. And you know, I kind of wrote it out of the PS2 there with like some different games that I can't really remember right now.
Mm-hmm.
Until I finally got an Xbox 360. I don't know which came first. I played surprisingly I played both. I played all three of the modern the consoles at the time, which were the Wii, the PS3, and the Xbox 360. I can't remember which one between the Wii and the Xbox I got first. Um, but yeah, I played that. Played a lot of Wii Sports.
Hmm.
Man, that was awesome. I loved Wii Sports. The few
That was
games that I
good.
did play on the Xbox 360 were I forgot some of them, but one of them that really stuck out was a game called Quake 4. I played that one a lot as well.
It was good.
Unfortunately, I never got to finish it because it kept glitching out before I could make it farther.
Oh
So
dang.
I was only stuck to the beginning chapters, but that was probably for the best because I was young at the time, and if anybody who knows Quake 4, that infamous scene of you turning into a Strog is oh whew, man.
A little much.
Yeah, well not really. At least not for the time maybe. Like
Mm-hmm.
especially with my little imaginative head, it probably would have definitely left some
Yeah.
scars. But nowadays it's nothing, especially compared to the sick shit that people make today.
Yeah. That's not.
Um
You're not wrong.
but yeah, I played a little bit of Quake 4 on the Xbox 360, and it also came with a copy of Quake 2, and which is like really awesome as well. But I never got far because one, it scared the shit out of me because something about like those old graphics at the time really freaked me out. And also because it was fucking hard. I couldn't beat it for shit.
Mm.
I was not good at arena, Doom like shooters at the time,
Yeah,
especially one as intense as Quake 2.
I remember
Um,
playing Quake. like,
yeah,
like,
the
Yeah, Quake
original
was nice.
Quake.
yeah,
I played a little
It's
bit
a
of that
good
as
series.
well, but in
Good
the
series.
future.
yeah.
Yeah, Quake. I wish it came back, but eh, it is what it is.
Man, one can
It's like
say
asking
that's
for asking
go.
for GoldenEye to come back.
Yeah, no, it's not coming back. It's in limbo now.
Well,
But
thank
one can
you,
hope.
thank you for
But no,
your.
that's not it. That's not it. I'm not finished.
Oh,
I'm
oh,
not
I'm
finished.
sorry. I'm sorry. Keep going. Keep going.
Going back to the Wii. Now the Wii was what I played a lot of. Aside from Wii Sports, I played everything Mario related. Freaking New Super Mario Bros. Wii, both Mario Galaxies, Mario Kart Wii. Like, oh man,
Did you play
I think
Mario and Sonic Olympic Games?
yes, I did also play that as well. I've played nearly everything Mario related on that damn Wii. Um, but a game that I especially loved, it's still my favorite to this day. Sorry, Ultimate fans. Smash Bros. Brawl is still my favorite Smash Bros. Game.
It's
Let's.
still the #1 Smash Bros. Game, anyways.
I love Brawl. I love the soundtrack. I love the story, which Ultimate failed to deliver.
I think Phenom would agree with you, Chad. I'm pretty sure he would because he loves that
Like
But
game.
Brawl's the
s-
#1 and Melee's #2 still.
No, maybe it's
sub
Melee. Actually, Melee I think is one that he liked.
Yeah, Melee's the
Subspace
one that came out for
Emissary.
N64.
Yep, that's
Yeah,
the one.
Subspace Emissary was my favorite. Like I loved seeing all the characters interact. I still remember the OG crew of Link, Mario, Pit, Kirby, and Yoshi. those guys got things done. Like oh man. And then the whole freaking Sonic coming in at the final moment just to taunt the final boss was awesome. That whole game, man. Oh, I love it. I love it to pieces.
I like the Wii as well. I played a lot of different things on the Wii, like the Guitar Heroes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Oh wait, no, yeah, I played some Guitar Hero on Xbox. Oh man, you unlocked the memory.
there you go.
I did play more than just Quake. I also played Guitar Hero on the Xbox. Man, that was awesome. I missed that.
It's good times.
But yeah, after all that, then I got my PS3, and that's when I got really heavily into the story shit because that was the game that when I got my PS3, it came with two games. One was a generic soldier shooter, which actually wasn't that bad, but I forgot the name of it. And the other was BioShock, and you could already tell how that ended up,
Yeah,
with that
yeah.
whole thing. I just got a really deep appreciation for like those heavy story games.
Yeah,
Um,
Bioshock is a heavy
So let me
story.
ask you a question. Which version of the PS3 did you have?
I had I think I had no, it wasn't the Slim. That was the later one. I think I had the normal version of it, like the stock.
So there
I
was
think
two
that was
one.
the one I had.
The original one that came out was the backwards capable one. It had
Yep.
like a little thing that you pulled up on the left side. It had a little flap that you pulled up, and you can
It was an
actually put in.
expansion pack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah. No, I don't think I don't. Yeah, I didn't have that one. I had the
okay,
other one.
I had that one, and I got to
If I
say
So
I
I
had
had
enjoyed
that
that
it,
one
one
but
though,
too.
I would probably defend that with my life, man.
but
I had that
you could.
too, and then I got the blue screen of death, and I had to return it back to PlayStation, and they
Oof.
gave me a Slim.
Oh,
Oh
that's crap.
yeah, that's
You know
it.
how
Kind of
much more
screwed me.
expensive those were than the ones when they released it without the baker. The
Yes, so
reason.
they gave me a check. They gave me a check for how much I paid for the PlayStation, and
Oh,
I
okay.
just went out and bought a PlayStation Slim because they didn't sell regular PlayStation 3s anymore.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Anyways, continue, Arson. Sorry.
But no, yeah, I got some really big appreciation for the story-driven games. BioShock was one that stood out a
Hmm.
lot, but the other ones that did stand out were Black Ops 1 with my huge appreciation for zombies, which has been reduced to rubble, but the amazing community keeps it alive. I appreciate the zombies community. I love you all. And
Big
also
shout out.
a superhero sandbox game called Infamous. I love Infamous.
Infamous was
Infamous
lit.
1, Infamous
I
2.
love both of them. Yep.
The Second Son wasn't as good, but it was good. It wasn't bad. It was a fine game, but it just didn't compare to the sheer titans that were 1 and 2. I loved Infamous. And I really wish they brought the whole, sandbox superhero stuff back because, you didn't have to be a superhero. You could also be a complete
You could be a
asshole.
villain.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you
could
could be
be
a
the
villain.
villain. But yeah, those were some big ones that stood out. And man, another
What about
one that
Uncharted?
stood out a lot. Little Big Planet 2.
Oh, Little Big Planet. Yep.
Man, Little Big Planet. I loved everything about it. I spent so many hours just joining random people in their pods and just playing the same levels over and over again.
You know what
It
game?
What about
never got
Uncharted?
old. It was
Did
just
you
fun.
play Uncharted?
Oh, Uncharted. Of course. Who could forget that as well? I actually started with 3, ironically. Really stupid of me, but I played 3, and then I think I played 1, and then I finally capped it off with 2. Oh man! And then 4 came out later on with the PS4, and then that was a whole emotional trip to send off the series with.
So I have a
Yeah.
It was
game
great.
that was really, really one of my favorite games on my PS3, and they never ported it over to PS4 or 5 or anything like that, and it really upsets me because it was one of those games you got from the store. It really wasn't out. It was just PlayStation exclusive, and it was called Pain. Does anybody remember that?
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
sounds
I was gonna
real
say it
weird.
sounds familiar.
All right, so the premise of this game is basically you trying to cause as much destruction as you can to this area, and you put this guy basically in a slingshot, pull him back, and throw him around, see how long you can go, and try to get your points up. They actually had David Hasselhoff in it too. He was an added character, and he was the Hoff. And it was one of my favorite games. Me and a buddy of mine literally got so many hours out of that. We lived together at the time, and when we were both off, we'd just sit in my room and just play Pain for hours. We'd play Pain on mine, and we'd play Assassin's Creed on his Xbox 360. Like that was our thing. That's the way we did it. Matter of fact, Confused Zombie
Question
came
is,
over.
which Assassin's Creed?
The original,
Which Assassin?
number 1.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But Confused Zombie came over a lot during that time, and he'd be playing games with us too. So, but I'm just saying, like, yeah, that was one of my favorite games of all time for my PS3. But yeah, so anyways, well, man, that's a good lineup. You got anything else to add to that, Arson?
Well, I mean, there was also the DS and the PS Vita and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But
But what was your
they
favorite?
were great as well. What, between the Vita and the DS?
No, I'm talking about between everything. Like what?
It's gotta be the PS3, man. The PS3 just had way too many memories.
Yeah, and it had a good
Like it
lifespan
was,
too.
yeah, it had a very good lifespan. Like I
Oh.
just played so much. I'm surprised with the amount of games. Like I just didn't overfill the hard drive.
Yeah,
I had so much on that.
man, that's pretty cool. Well, I tell you what. When it comes to me with my earliest gaming console, which I've talked about this before, but the earliest gaming console I can remember having is the Magnavox Odyssey 2, and
Mhm.
that is one of the oldest consoles that you can get. The Magnavox Odyssey 1 was the first ever console.
Yeah, back in
So
like '72.
yeah, well, right, but but of course I'm not alive then. But we got the Magnavox Odyssey
You
2.
sure you're a dinosaur out here? You sure you weren't alive then?
Oh, I'm pretty sure my memory's not that bad. But anyway, so that was the first one I remember having. But I've had them all. Like I remember, of course, some of them weren't mine. Like the Nintendo, it was the families, and the Sega was the families. And anytime I got in trouble, I got grounded from all that stuff. So it was like, ugh. But the first real then we got the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis, and moved on. But the first, I don't know, the first one I bought for myself outside of that was I bought a Sega Genesis, Sega CD, and a Sega 32X all together from my neighbor. And it was used, of course, and I had it for years, like I talked about. But still, the first one I think I ever had to be, that was mine, besides the Game Boy, had to be the PlayStation 1. That was solely mine. And I love that so much. I spent so many hours on that thing. It was crazy. After, you get the PlayStation, I kept my consoles. I got PlayStation 2, and then I got the PlayStation 3. That was, backwards capable. And it's funny, I still remember the day I bought it because I had the money, I called my best friend and I was like, dude, I'm sitting here staring at this, talk me out of buying it. He's like, why? He's like, just get that in Madden and I'll call off work. I was like, deal. So,
Axe.
so we got I got Madden, and that was the first game I owned for my PS3. And but the best thing about the PS3 that I loved
was
is
Madden 95.
Madden 95 on a PS3. I think so. No, I actually had the first Madden game on Sega Genesis.
Yeah, I think that was what, 92?
Something
93?
like that.
First Madden game?
92, 93. Yeah, one of those two. But anyway, so one of the best things about my PS3 is what I loved is downloading all of the demos that you could get. It was fun. It was fun. It was like one of the first experiences I had with being able to put demos on the console. And I had them all. Like, I would download them all and play them and then delete them. And there's some I'd play over and over again. There was this you're gonna laugh at me at this one. There was this like rubber ducky game on I can't remember what it was called, but I still own it. It's still actually accessible. But it was basically, you have this duck or whatever sitting on this table, and it's kind of like the table, you can move it, and it's kind of like you got to move the duck to the next area basically, and without it falling off or whatever. And
yeah, I know what game you're talking about.
Do you really?
Yeah, it's called Super Rub-a-Dub.
Yes, that's what it is. That's exactly what it's called.
Yeah, I know exactly what it's called.
It's addicting, is what it is. I had the demo, and I ended up buying the full version just because it was so good. I loved it. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you. That's so funny. But yeah, so I ended up buying my first Xbox, the original one, mainly for two games. And it was Raw, WWF Raw. It was WWF, not WWE. WWF Raw, and Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
Yep.
Though that's the only reason I got an Xbox, because those games were exclusive. Do what?
Also got a Def Jam.
Oh yeah, I didn't do it for that. I did it for those two games, and so that's the only reason, because like on Raw you can actually add music, like take CDs and put them into your Xbox and use those CDs. So I'd have like Linkin Park in there and all this other stuff, Metallica, and that would be my entrance themes, So it was really cool. They had a really good creative character, and of course Star Wars, the old Knights of Old Republic. I played every single character twice, like the good side, the bad side, like every single one of them. Like it was ridiculous. But I've owned every single console. I've got so many on there. I've gotten rid of a bunch, and then when I got my PS3, I got rid of my PS1 and 2 because I didn't really need them because they played all of the games. Then I got married. We moved to Atlanta. And I sold my PS3 original one to a friend of mine. And years later, he ended up trading a Wii. I traded him a Wii for my PlayStation 3 back. The only catch is it didn't work because it's not the blue screen, but it was something similar. It's kind of like the Red Ring of Death.
Button.
Yeah.
Red Ring of Death, yeah.
But I still have it. It's still put up, and I plan on getting it fixed eventually. Mainly because I want to be able to play all my PlayStation games up to 3 on there. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so this is a roll call of all my consoles. All right, so I got a Nintendo, Super Nintendo, 64. I've got my original GameCube still with all my original games. I got a Wii U, a Sega Genesis, Sega 32X, Sega CD, which isn't really working, Xbox 360, and Xbox One, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, two versions of it, and PlayStation. I had a PlayStation 4, but I got rid of it because my PS5 plays PlayStation 4 games. And I made a bunch of money back off of it. I sold that and then I got oh, I'm sorry, I forgot my Switch. I've got my Switch, then I've got my I had a PSP and I have a PS Vita.
Vita.
So those are pretty much all my consoles that I have that I can sit here looking at.
You're missing one, my guy.
Which one?
Dreamcast.
I had a Dreamcast for about a month, but I took it back. I still have one of the original controllers, but I plan on getting. I want to go back and I want to get the Atari Jaguar. I'm looking for one still. If anybody has any leads on that, please let me know. I want to get a Saturn and I want to get a Dreamcast again. Because you know what the first,
was my jam.
You know what I had for Dreamcast that was so much fun? Chef's
What?
Love Shack.
Oh, nice.
It was such a good game.
I always played Marvel vs. Capcom on Dreamcast.
Oh, nice. But yeah, so those are my consoles that I have, and the favorite has to be probably, man, I'd have to go with Arson on that, man. Even though I have so many fond memories of like the Super Nintendo and not so much the 64. I got that later. I played on my cousin's 64, but I got that a little bit later. But hours of time on my regular Nintendo and everything else, like the game I hold most fond on the original Nintendo was the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that everybody finds to be one of the most difficult games ever to play and beat. But me and my friend beat it. So it took us forever, but we did beat it. But I have to agree with Arson that my favorite was probably my PS3. I love that thing. It was amazing. But yeah, so that's what I wanted to say. And that's, I love the nostalgia for everything else, but I never, I'm a PC person now more cases than not. I have a PS5 and I have a Nintendo Switch, but I hardly ever play them. I'll play the new Mario games. I'm like Arson. I love the Mario games. I love all of that stuff. But I don't know. It's something about PC that's just completely superior to everything else. Because
you can play all the games from Xbox and PlayStation and all that other stuff on the PC.
Right. Well, through emulators and whatnot, but yeah. You're able to do that, and yeah, I have.
And then mostly Microsoft and Sony are putting all of their stuff on the computer also nowadays.
Yeah. Well, yeah, newer stuff, but to find some of your older stuff that games you'll probably never find, like we've talked about before in previous podcasts, like Legend of Dragoon. You'll never find that on PC. I don't think you will,
unless you emulate them.
Right. If when it comes to the time to where from what I heard, there's rumors that they're remaking the game. That may end up being on PC eventually, but Sony, that's literally done by Sony's people. So Sony, that's a Sony game. That's like Microsoft, have their own games like Sea of Thieves and stuff like that. But yeah, that literally is just an amazing game. That, and then we were talking the other day about Lunar, the what is it, the Silver Star Story complete, when that ported to PlayStation. I have it, or I had it. I don't know where the original one is. I don't know. I wouldn't even think I would have got rid of that whole collector's edition. It had a cloth map in there and everything. So good, amazing game.
Sick.
But anyways, yeah, I'm off my high horse of that stuff. Arson, do you got anything for us?
No, man. I got nothing. But you
Well-
know, this brings up a very controversial thing that that Ubisoft is especially doing. You want to know what it is?
What is it?
Ad breaks in the middle of games. Here's one right now.
Will it be you? Will your family be the first to witness the birth of the incredible Nintendo Entertainment System? Will you be the first to see, to touch, to play with Rob, the extraordinary video robot? He follows the commands you put on screen to help you tackle even the toughest challenge. Will you be the first to raise the incredibly accurate Zapper and play games like Duck Hunt and Hogan's Alley? The first to build a library of game packs like Kung Fu and Golf? Even games like Excitebike that you program yourself. Will you be the first to get all this in one package? The Nintendo Entertainment System, where video technology is more than a game.
Hello, citizens of Europe. As spokesperson for SAPS, the Society Against PlayStation, I'd like to talk to you about a menace threatening humanity. It's happening right here, in our very homes, and corrupting the lives of our loved ones. Yes, friends, I'm talking about this. It may look like a harmless bagel toaster, but inside is a deadly donut. How do you know PlayStation is not a normal game system? It carries these telltale signs. Scientists say its effects are mind-boggling. Users lose all sense of reality and enter another world. Here we have a normal, healthy young man. And here we have a fellow who's been experimenting with PlayStation for only a few minutes. Proof that we saps must be on our guard. Remember, do not underestimate the power of PlayStation.
And we're back from that generous ad, generously provided by our folks over at Ubisoft. Thank you so much for sponsoring this video. You scumbags.
You're gonna get canceled.
That was a great commercial when it came to Skull and Bones. I'm just saying.
Phoenix, why are you eating the slop, man?
You're the one that brought up Ubisoft or whatever way it's
Yeah, but you had to
pronounced.
bring up one of the worst games they fucking put out this year. Go play Assassin's Creed Black Flag, man.
Why? I've got
Facts.
all the good things of.
It's the superior pirate game.
All right. So with that being said, I believe Al wanted to talk about something real quick before we move on.
It's kind of like a quick little thing. You know, everybody, I know Phoenix and Arson both said, you know, PlayStation 3 was their, you know, favorite, you know, system or whatever. And I think most of the world would agree with you. Because when the PlayStation 3 dropped and Xbox 360 dropped and the Wii dropped all in the same kind of calendar year, you know, Xbox only sold about, I think it was about 84 million units or something around the sort. But, you know, comparatively, PlayStation was in the middle. They weren't number one in units sold. Nintendo was actually the number one unit sold for that year for the for games being or systems being dropped.
Well, but also you got to realize Nintendo was trying to market this really fun for the family type of console.
Yeah,
And-
but that prompted PlayStation and Xbox to bring out, you know, the Xbox Connect and the PlayStation Move.
Mhm.
And, you know, it kind of prompted them to do the same thing, but we had already, you know, basically cornered the market on it.
Yeah.
That's why they sold so much more units than, you know, PlayStation or Microsoft.
Well, it didn't hurt that it was cheaper too. So
100%.
I mean, the Nintendo Wii was like a lot cheaper than Xbox and PlayStation both.
And again, the same reason that Microsoft, instead of doing just 360, they came out with the 360S and the 360E, and then the Kinect, and then the PlayStation came out with the slim versions. They were trying to lower their price to compete with the Wii
Right.
or Nintendo. And
Right.
Nintendo was just, yeah, fuck you. We already won that.
Well, now that we're on that subject, I want to take us back to the late days of the late days of the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and it was quite interesting of a story, a nice tale, and basically this is what was going to happen. Nintendo partnered with a up and coming, well, they weren't up and coming. They were already there in different aspects of things, but Nintendo partnered with Sony, and they were going to have an add-on that came with like that you could like basically expand the life of the Super Nintendo. And so this add-on was called the Nintendo PlayStation. And so they had all this stuff lined up for it. Like they had in progress like games like Resident Evil and but the main one that they had coming out was through Squaresoft, and that was Final Fantasy VII. That was going to be the release, the first one of the first that come out with it. And it literally
they were going to call it the Super NES.
Do what?
The Super NES CD-ROM. I think that's what they were going to call it for the Sony N64 or Nintendo co-op thing.
No, it was it was actually like they've got like prototypes of it. It was called the Nintendo PlayStation. 100%. Like,
was it?
Yeah, it was.
Because I know they talked about doing the Super NES CD-ROM situation. I don't know if that's what they called it, but it was basically a NES that did CDs.
Yeah. And that's what they were going to do, but it was marketed because Sony came up with the CD technology, so it was their PlayStation is what they were going to use, and so it was going to be licensed under Nintendo, so it was going to end up being the Nintendo PlayStation, which was exciting. Granted, I never heard of it until years and years after, but the Nintendo PlayStation never happened because what happened was Nintendo had some shady dealings going on and freaking decided to stab Sony in the back, and they signed with a different person, which was Magnavox, a company, and they came out with this other thing, whatever. I don't even remember the name of it. It was something. It was probably something along the lines of what Al was just talking about, and that failed miserably in Japan, like big time. But what happened is Sony decided we were going to put out our own, and we're going to call it the Sony PlayStation, and we are going to crush you. Basically, is what their mentality was, and why wouldn't it be? You know what I mean? I mean, I would totally be like out for vengeance with that, especially if you have a deal with somebody. I mean, I would have.
That's the same time E3 was created.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. I did not know that. I'm surprised actually that Sony didn't try to go to Sega and be like, "Hey, let's partner, take out Nintendo." Could you imagine that? If that would have happened?
Well, yeah, Sega didn't do that. The Sega saw that Sony was about to be super big, and they tried to put out as many Sega Saturns as possible.
Yeah.
To kind of flood the market of PlayStation, and it didn't work.
Yeah. So let's step back, and I'll tell you what was going on with this as well. So when Sony decided to release the PlayStation, Nintendo lost the rights to a lot of different big names like Capcom and Squaresoft, and there's others that were in there too, but those are the two big ones, and they went straight exclusively to PlayStation. And when that happened, like, you seen a changing in the guard before even the PlayStation was out. Like, once PlayStation came out with Final Fantasy VII and titles like Resident Evil, and you got other ones, like Konami, I think was part of that too for a while.
Mm-hmm.
and you got like Silent Hill, and you got the Castlevania on PlayStation, and, and stuff like that. Like, what was that, Symphony of the Nights that came out, I think, for PlayStation 1? I think. I could be wrong. But
I would have to look that up. I don't remember.
I would too. But you get all of this stuff flooding the PlayStation, and they became super successful. Like, Final Fantasy VII is one of the greatest games of all time in my eyes. Always will be. You can say what you want about the remakes and all this other stuff, but Final Fantasy VII was a game changer for everything. And it's interesting if you go back and look some of the footage that was going to be on the Nintendo PlayStation. The graphics were a bit different, but not much.
Squaresoft went to Sony because of Nintendo.
Right, exactly. But so did Capcom.
And for any of you guys who don't know who Squaresoft is, right now they're called Square Enix.
Yeah.
Just the original company was called Square, and then they went to Squaresoft, and now Square Enix. But yeah, originally they were with Nintendo, and then they said fuck Nintendo and went with Sony.
Just because of that whole ordeal, because they screwed Sony over and decided to go with Magnavox.
Yeah, it was because of the N64.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so all of that stuff, you ball up in together, and and then you've got the creators of the PlayStation over there, like, we just want to crush these guys. And rightfully so. Like, Nintendo, that was shady, like some shady dealings going on. And let's be honest, even with like the success of like the Wii, or even with the Switch, like, and I do like the Switch. I like how you can take it from being handheld to like on your TV and stuff like that. That's a great thing to have. But
yeah,
it is not the same. Like, you cannot handle a graphic intense game like you can on an Xbox or a PlayStation.
I mean, look at what Nintendo had to do with the Switch. They had to increase it. They had to make the OLED Switch, because the original Switch wasn't up to snuff when it came to different games that needed more graphic intense stuff going on.
And
like when the new Pokemon came out, was it Scarlet and Violet? Mm-hmm. It was so laggy, so buggy, and it could not handle the amount of stuff that was going on the screen, that it was just it bugged all the time.
And yes, and I know Xbox and PlayStation is not perfect. They're gonna have buggy stuff, but they have like the premier stuff in their systems. Like, there's no doubt about it. Granted, their systems also grew in size, but it is what it is. Like, you look back at the original PlayStation and look at the PlayStation 5. I can sit here and look at them now and be like, man, it's a big difference when it comes to the size, of what they've had to work with and stuff, and what they put into it. But with Nintendo screwing over Sony like that, they got a lot of push from other companies and said, we'll join you on this, and let's do this. But as you know, eventually some of them went back to Nintendo and didn't go solely with Sony, because, I mean, let's face it, they did what they had to do, and they got their point across, and that scared the crap out of Nintendo. It had to.
Well, yeah, Sega dropped out of the race and said, "Hey, we're just going to support you, Nintendo. Here's some stuff."
Yeah, yeah.
Be like, we'll be your software developers. Just keep going with what you're doing. We'll try and rule the world again. Not going to happen though.
Yeah, but see, they're so far out of the race now, man. It's not even funny. Like, they would have to come up with something big on their next release.
I don't think Nintendo's completely out of the race. It's just like Xbox or PlayStation, and they all have their own exclusives.
Oh, I agree.
Once you keep making those exclusives, and if you're making them better, then people will buy your system just for those exclusives.
And
the
luckily,
reason people buy Nintendo's is Super Smash Brothers or Mario Kart.
I was gonna say, luckily they have Mario and they have Pokemon. Yeah. Those two alone will keep Sony. Those two alone will keep Nintendo going. And I would say they had exclusive rights to Sonic, but that's not true. You know that, and I know that. Sega
It allows them to use them.
Right. So Sega can, they've had Sony or they've had Sonic games on like across the platforms, I believe, like even on the Xbox,
Yeah,
I think.
they have.
So, but yeah, like it's crazy all the stuff that they went through, and but that's why I think, and of course, like I said, I didn't know back then, but I think that's why I stick with Sony so big right now because of what they had to go through and how they were backstabbed by one of the biggest companies in the world,
Yep.
especially if not the biggest company in the world coming when it comes to gaming
At the time.
At the time,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. It was basically like Sony coming in as a little baby. He's like, "Hey, we'll help out," and Nintendo's like, "Fuck you," and they're like, "All right, well, I guess we'll
Yeah.
do better than you now."
So how'd that Nintendo Magnavox deal go?
Yeah, right.
But yeah,
Let's take a moment and go through that what if scenario. How do you think both companies would have ended up if nothing bad happened between them?
I think they would have a monopoly on the industry right now.
100%.
They would have ruled the world.
They would have.
They would have eventually bought Xbox from Microsoft.
Yep.
Because Microsoft wouldn't have been able to keep up with Sony and Nintendo at the same time.
I mean, you got two separate companies merging.
What do you think their console would have been called?
Oh, that's a good one, actually.
That is a good one. I don't know, to be honest, because it'd still be Nintendo.
I have no clue. It would have to be somewhat Nintendo, but PlayStation, Sony would want their name in there somewhere.
Yeah, but see, if with the original model being called, it wouldn't be PlayStation, but with their Playtendo. That's a good
PlayStation
question.
Come up with.
PlayStation wasn't the name. The original name of the thing was what, Phoenix?
It was
they were going to put out
Nintendo PlayStation.
Okay, well maybe it might be the Playtendo or the Nin Station.
I think Playtendo is probably the best we're gonna get here. Unless
I don't think Nintendo would allow their name to be last.
It's the NEP, the Nintendo Entertainment PlayStation.
It could be.
That's another one. That's another one, I suppose.
But to be honest, I don't know what it would have been called, but it would have been like, and I reserve these certain cursing at times for good points, but that would have been badass.
Damn! Now I wish I could just jump into different dimensions. I could proudly own the only freaking system of that in existence. At least, when I come back here.
There would have been no chance for Sega. But that's another thing, though.
Absolutely not. They probably would have joined with Xbox.
Microsoft. What would have happened if we had? But still, it would have been too late. I think. I mean, there's always good thing for competition, but you would have still been second best.
Sega would have not stayed into the game till 2001 like they did if Nintendo and PlayStation merged.
Yeah.
Or Nintendo and Sony merged.
Yeah. Oh, I know what you mean.
Sega would have not stayed into that final to the war. They would have tried and merged with Microsoft, or they would have just done what they did and did software for Nintendo and Sony.
But could you imagine like some of the games and crossovers you could have had with that?
Yeah. Man, I'm telling you right now, Smash Bros. Roster would have been huge.
Fire.
It would have been crazy. 100%. Yeah. Like, so amazing. I'm just saying the crossovers in that would have been crazy. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that thinking. We need to do
franchising rights alone.
PlayStation did their own Smash Bros.
Yeah, but where is that at?
They called it PlayStation All Stars. It was pretty. It's dead now, but it was when it first came out.
I loved
it.
It was a good game to me. I played it
pretty
a lot
popular when it first came out.
They had that. They also had that. Like SquareSoft or Square Enix had their Dissidia or whatever it's called. That was a fighting game amongst all the characters in like their world too. Do you remember that?
I never heard about that.
Yeah, well, it had like Cloud and Sephiroth and a bunch of other characters in it.
Oh yeah.
So,
well, no wonder it's not existent now. It's because both of those guys are in Smash.
They're in Smash Bros. now.
And do you know, like, I have not bought anything for Smash except for like getting Cloud and Sephiroth. Like, I only use those two. So, but I'm not very good at it. I'm not gonna, mix words and say I am, but I'm not.
That was the thing I also loved about
I'm not
Smash
ranked
Bros.
anymore.
I just
but,
played with a bunch of people that sucked.
Yeah.
I was ranked at one point in my life.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was ranked in the top 100 for Smash Brothers at one point in my life.
There is a person that is in my other Discord, and her name is Emily, and she is absolutely amazing at that game. Ultimate, she would win tournaments like crazy. Played against her once, and it was not a pretty sight. Chad played against her and got his tail beat so bad. Like, yeah, I told her, I was like, I like playing against you because it just, even though I lose, it gives me a chance to like try to get better. That's like, I know Arson would beat the living crap out of me in Mortal Kombat. Like, it wouldn't even be pretty. It wouldn't even be pretty. But that kind of stuff would lead to me getting better or
It's
throwing
never
my
pretty in
controller.
Mortal Kombat.
No,
Always gory.
yeah, but it would have been super uber gory with Arson because I know he plays online and I don't even touch online stuff.
Wait, which no, never mind. I was thinking like what original copy of Mortal Kombat released on which system, but I forgot it was an arcade.
Yeah, it was arcade first.
First, and then it came out later on consoles.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Next, we're talking about the Arcade Wars. No, I'm just kidding.
Arcade Wars. Arcade is dead.
That would be wild. That is a ridiculous war, actually.
Yeah.
That is a wild war.
It is an underrated. It's more like a civil war than a full blown out war.
Yeah.
That's how small it is.
But it was
but
interesting.
It's crazy in all directions for it, to be quite honest.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I'm still thinking about that whole crossover thing, man. That would be.
And I'm just shoving ideas into that brain of yours.
That we need to put down in the podcast topics like a what if type of scenario thing, like a series of what ifs.
Yeah.
A new discussion topic born here.
What ifs, yes.
What ifs.
Coming soon to a podcast near you for the singles and dozens of people that watch. So, what do you think about that, Zombie?
Yep.
Thank you for your insight.
Riveting. So riveting, Zombie.
Man, he didn't even have to be here. You could have just dismissed him, man. Why are you holding him here?
That was a game changer. No. Zombie likes listening to the content. I'm just saying. I just wanted the people to know that he was still here.
I am. I'm still here.
Yeah, I'm just going to expose this right now. He was always here. He was here since the Ocean episode. We literally did it right after. You could have just dismissed him after that.
What are you talking about, Ocean episode? That was like done weeks ago.
No. Now you're contradicting the lore.
I have not been sitting here for weeks.
So, anyways,
I think everything that needed to be said has been said.
I agree. And that being said, no matter which way you go in the path of your console, whichever one that you love the most or whichever one you despise the most, just know that PC is supreme. And
just have fun. Don't listen to whatever Phoenix says. Just have fun.
Absolutely. That's the most important. I love gaming, retro gaming or whatever, but I just...
young folks say these days.
Yeah, that they're retro gaming. I remember when I did it, it wasn't retro. It was actually new.
Retro is PlayStation 3 these days.
Yeah, I know. That's like when you go to an oldies, like when you listen to an oldies station and it's got my music when I was, like in my 20s. Like, you gotta be kidding me. But anyways, neither here or there. Yes, do your gaming the way you want. Don't let anybody tell you how to game because whatever way you game is the correct way. Unless you play Fortnite. and then no. But
You're wrong.
anyways,
Just hope until you live long enough so we can get those Ready Player One headsets. Then it won't matter.
You're wrong in all
Dude.
accounts.
that's amazing. I would love to have a Ready
Yeah, I
Player
would
One.
love that too. That'd be dope.
So next, on the next topic, we're going to be talking about Ready Player One and how amazing it was. Anyways, no.
Complicating the timeline.
Yeah, we are. So, guys, I want to thank you guys for being here. Does anybody have any closing statements before we go on?
I think we should give Zombie a raise.
Potatoes.
Zombie,
Wait.
please make me some potatoes. But
No.
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 No,
just one.
Oh, wow,
You're
that's
not
it.
my dad.
You're
Just
not
one.
my dad.
One fry.
You're not my dad.
You get one fry.
Well, on that note, we've come to the end of another successful but chaotic podcast. I want to thank everybody for being here. Don't forget about that link below that takes you rather, to all of our amazing content, socials, and everything that goes with it. And again, we do this every week. We'll be back next week with some new content, and it's going to be awesome, or at least awesome to me. But like I said, have a great week, everybody, and we shall see you soon.
Mm-hmm.